And here we go. Welcome to Improv Breakdown. My guest today credits improv with saving her life. She has performed all over the country, including Gilda Radner's Laugh Fest, the Punchline in San Francisco, and the Lady Laughs Comedy Festival. She leads improv-based workshops for tens of thousands of people around the world, including Fortune 500 companies. Her company, Improv, uses improv to affect and empower positive change and improvements. Before she was an improviser, she was a very young entrepreneur, starting her first company at age 14. You can watch her talk with business leader guests on her YouTube show, Startup Late Night. And if that wasn't enough, you can watch her TED Talk. Yes, she has a TED Talk, How Improv Can Improve Your Leadership and Life. I'm super happy to welcome to the show Mary Lemmer. Thank you so much for being on the breakdown.
Thanks for having me. It's always fun and somewhat awkward to listen to someone talk about you. So thanks for that.
Isn't that true for all improvisers, though? I feel like even if you do a good show and someone says, you did a great show, aren't we always a little awkward about that?
Yeah, it's kind of, I think it's like that inner critic that we fire that judge, we let go of that inner critic, but there's still this, oh man, that could have been better. And with improv, at least, it's like no one will ever see that scene again. Like, it's fine. It's over with. There's no need to dissect it. And I have to remind myself that. And I try to just remember like, oh, that one was so fun. And like, think about the ones that were really fun versus criticize the ones that didn't go as I would have hoped, because that's improv. That's the name of the game.
I love it. Yes. So, Mary, take us back. Before you, at one point, you weren't an improviser, but then how did you become one?
Yeah, I had started a business that you alluded to when I was a teenager, and I was really like full in kind of in the business world. And I also was a very anxious person. I would have panic attacks. I have fainted over 30 times in my life. I would just be really stressed out, especially when things wouldn't go as I planned. And as a business owner and also as a teenager, like things never went as planned, right? That's life.
Sure.
And so I remember the day very clearly, because like everything seemed to be going wrong. Like I went to the business and like something was broken and I hadn't slept enough, and I like went upstairs and like was sitting on a beanbag in the office and my nose started bleeding and I just broke down in tears. And our one of the employees at the time came upstairs and like saw me like this and was just kind of like, whoa, go home, are you okay? And here it was like I was the supposed leader of this business and I was breaking down. And so that was kind of a big sign for me to make some changes. And so I took a real vacation and I came back and signed up for an improv class, just a local community improv class in Ann Arbor, Michigan. And I'd always been interested in performing and acting, but I was always too shy and nervous really as growing up, which is somewhat ironic since I started a business that I couldn't be shy to be successful in that business. So it was a little strange, but I would try out for plays and I would get the chorus roles and I would really like admire performers. And so I think there was always that little hunger inside of me. And so when it came to like, I'm going to do something fun for me, I chose improv. And when I stepped foot in that improv class and that first day, I, for the first time in my life, felt relaxed. I mean, I wasn't strategizing of like, well, what's the right thing to say? Or how do I make this work? And, how do I like kind of create whatever it is I was trying to get? I just like let go and just be. I could just be me, and that was enough. And it fundamentally like shifted my mindset and also like shifted my nervous system. I was like totally in my sympathetic nervous system, fight or flight so often. And then as I practiced improv more and more, I was like, I got to be a little bit more just, okay, take things, handle them, not get super stressed out about them. And I found that practicing improv really made me a better entrepreneur too, and just a better human. So I kept doing it and brought those worlds together. And that was how I got started with improv. It was really just like, I needed it and it found me at the time that I needed it most.
Wow. Did you know when you signed up for or did you have a feeling when you signed up for the course that it was going to help you with all these things?
I don't think so. No, I mean, this was over a decade ago, and it wasn't like I hadn't read any of the research that now I nerd out about how great improv is for building all these skills and how great it is for leaders and teams. It really was just, this seems fun and creative, and I've always been kind of interested in being a performer, so let me try this out. Yeah, there was no,
Wow.
I didn't really realize it going into it. And then like every class I'd go to would be like another insight of like, oh, this applies to this part of my life too. And like, here's this other connection. So there were just like so many connections that came the more and more that I improvised.
What a wonderful surprise. You
Yeah,
know,
right.
like, you probably, I mean, maybe, I don't know. I assume that if I signed up for a pottery class, I probably wouldn't get my life changed. Like, maybe I would. Maybe pottery does the same thing. But I mean, just like the idea of like, I'm just gonna sign up for this thing because it's creative and fun, and it's like, oh, this is helps everything else. That's incredible.
Yeah. I think it's like, I think part of it is improv is a metaphor for, like, improv can be a metaphor for anything because like we're always improvising whether we
Yeah,
realize it or not, right, as
yeah,
humans. And so there's so many applications of it because you can use it in so many different ways, and it's so fun and it feels good. And I think we'll learn more and more, and I'm super like geeked out about just the health benefits of improvising and what it's literally doing to our neural pathways and our bodies, because I think there's something to that maybe a pottery or a painting class doesn't get to in the same way because of
yeah.
how improv engages so many of the senses. And it's not just by yourself, it's with other people. Like there's so many elements of it that I think really make it what I like to call like the improv magic, right? There's so much of this like magic that I think improv can uniquely achieve.
Yeah, and I'm sure you've read about this stuff, but like the more research is coming about how adults need to play more like children, like, and improv is one of the only times that I see adults playing, without, like the adult softball leagues are fun, but some people get real competitive and it becomes all about the win and less about the play. But like in improv, you can't win, so it's just like we're just playing,
Yeah.
and that really affects people. I mean, that's one of my favorite parts of it.
Yeah, I do love that. It's funny when there's like certain improv games, or I've, taken some workshops, or I'll be leading a workshop and people like want to make it competitive. Like, how do we win? And I'm like, there's no winner. I have to explain. And it's like, yeah, it's a different mindset, right? And I grew up as a competitive athlete. So I was like all about the competition. And I actually find that, like you said, just like really nice about improv because it takes the pressure off a little bit. It's literally, I think, the least pressure environment you can find in today's society is in improv.
Oh, 100%. So I know obviously your resume is filled with like you use improv for business and applied improv and all this stuff. Do you still perform? Like, I mean, obviously not during pandemic, but or maybe during pandemic, maybe you're doing it online. But are you still like doing the comedy side of it?
Yeah, so I've done a couple virtual shows. I did a show with the Second City virtually a couple months ago, and I have one on June 20th. So, and I've been super impressed with how the production has gone up with Zoom. It can be really entertaining and fun. It's different. And I hope that when I get back to improvising and performing in real life, I remember how to use my lower body in a scene. It's like I'm like, oh my gosh, what am I gonna do? I'm just gonna be like doing all this scene work, and my legs will just be like sitting still. I'll be like, oh my gosh, I can move my legs.
Walk to stage left. What walk? Whoa, whoa.
How do I walk?
I don't
Well,
understand. Yeah.
leave my square.
Yeah, this my desk chair has probably seen me improvise more than most stages now at this point. Ridiculous.
Hey, every improv stage needs a good chair, right? And quite honestly, probably the chairs that we have in our home offices are maybe more comfy than some of the ones we've seen on stage.
Yeah, that's true. Do you when you teach, obviously you teach a lot of people, improv, the skills from improv to help them in business and things like that. Do you also teach performers, like people who are trying to just do it for performing?
I really haven't. I think part of it's because I haven't built a career as a performer, and I really find that I can bring a lot of value and really help people that are non-performers by using improv techniques. Um, and I really like I like enjoy I think I still enjoy learning with other performers because I learn a lot from them. So it hasn't come up yet. And I think there's plenty of amazing improvisers that are teaching other improvisers. And, there's a space for all of us. And I think my space, at least right now, is I really enjoy teaching non-performers and helping non-performers use these tools in their daily life. Now, I will say that I do get a lot of improvisers that come to some of our trainings, especially around mental health, because if you go to a typical improv class, they're not necessarily making that connection to how is this helping your brain and your health, and how can you use these tools for your health. So I do get quite a few people who are taking classes at UCB or the Second City, Ground Lanes, that come into our trainings because they want to learn, how can I use this in my life? I'm using this on stage. How can I use this so that I'm happier and more creative and joyful? And so that's where I've been teaching performers, but I haven't done any like teaching performers how to be better improvisers. Like there's other great teachers for that.
That's it. Your journey as like your students have got to be so different than like historically what I think of as improv teaching, because I'm mainly teaching like actors and stuff who want to like perform. Yeah, but I've taught the corporate stuff before, and something that I've run into sometimes is when they bring someone in a company will bring you in to like help out, and then but the people who you're actually training didn't really ask for that,
Oh
and
yeah.
so I've had to like win back people. Have you had a lot of experience in this?
Oh yes. This
Yeah.
is often the story of my life, Rich. In fact, I've actually had companies and like the people inside the company that hire me, they'll be like, just so you know, we have a lot of skeptics. I'm like, great, thank you for making that clear. She's like, no, I mean, like really skeptical. So if you could just make them not skeptical at the beginning, that would be great. And I'm like, okay. So, and I actually really I love those audiences because they're the ones that are going to have the biggest surprise and like the most fun, because I mean, we know this in comedy, right? It's like the unexpected is funnier. And so for them, when they're kind of like, I don't know about this improv, and smiling and laughing and, doing weird things. And then like, and we have like a method to our madness. I take people through to like really get them comfortable and, get that part of the brain that's not judgmental, like, lit up, and quiet down the judgmental part of the brain. And just see these people go from like, this to just like, this is so satisfying and so fun. And for them, I mean, some of the greatest critics become like the greatest supporters. And I think that's part of the work that I do, is like, look, this is like, take this seriously, take comedy seriously. And which sometimes seems like it's irony in itself. I'm trying to get people to take humor and silliness seriously, but take themselves less seriously, and they get it, and we include a lot of research in the work we do. So I incorporate a lot of neuroscience and behavioral science, so that we're doing these like fun, silly activities. Then I'm like, here's what's actually going on in your brain, and here's why we're doing this. So it's like giving people M&Ms that are laced with vitamins. They're like having fun, and they're like building their muscles, right? And
M&M's laced with vitamins. I've never heard that.
yeah, that's what
Well,
improv is.
well said. That's great. I'm keeping that one.
Yeah, there you go.
Tastes like M&M's. Health benefits of a vitamin.
Yeah, exactly.
I love it. Okay, so in thinking about like everyone who does applied improv and like using it for non-performers, like what is a piece of advice that you think would benefit all instructors who are in that teaching space?
I mean, she's patience, and like, I mean, I've seen this a lot because I've hired other improvisers to teach different workshops, and I think we have to remind ourselves when we're teaching non-improvisers, non-performers, that we have a tacit knowledge and a muscle of this that is actually really hard to build. And I'm reminded of this because I think I've taken for granted these improvisational skills that, yeah, of course, like, it's easy. Everyone can just figure it out. And for some people, no, they can't. It's really hard because their minds and bodies have literally been trained totally differently. And so I think that patience and empathy and compassion for where people are at and meeting them where they're at. And that's the beauty of improv too, right? Is like you can be flexible with it and you can make exercises simpler. You can add on to make it more complex. You can really massage it to work with whoever you're improvising with. And I mean, I do a lot of one word story. I do a lot of these like basic improv exercises that when I'm performing or I'm with my second city compatriots, like we're not doing one word story, like we're doing scenes, and they're like heartfelt, like, real, like intense scenes where we're talking about character and heightening, right? And not like doing these things that we did in like 101 however many years ago. And so I think I actually encourage a lot of improvisers, whether they're teaching non-improvisers or not, every once in a while, like go do a zip zap zop, go do a one word story, do have a conversation, first word, last word, because that's like, if you're a bodybuilder and like you can bench press like 300 pounds or whatever. I don't even know if that's a lot or if
That's
that's
a lot.
totally
That's a lot.
unreasonable,
Yeah, that's good.
but like you still got to warm up, you still got to like work those smaller muscles and like, get stretched out and everything. So I think that's kind of the metaphor I think of with anything is like, if you're a musician, right? You still want to kind of keep working on those fundamentals to build that solid foundation. And even when you're up there in the attic and you're doing all these creative things and you've got that foundation, you still want to go check on it once in a while and maybe touch up on it. And so I think that's it. It's like have empathy and compassion and patience with the people you're teaching. Know they're not at your level, and these muscles take a while to build, and keep revisiting those early exercises for yourself, your own skills.
Absolutely. A phrase that my students probably get super sick of is I tell them up until the day he retired, Michael Jordan still did dribbling drills because I said
Yes.
if anyone could rest on his laurels, the guy who won 5 championships or whatever. But like he knew that like the most important thing is you got to keep your fundamentals sharp. And like I tell me if you agree with this. I've been doing improv for 22 years now, and I still can easily forget some of the most basic fundamentals if I don't refresh them fairly regularly in my head. They will go away even after this long. Do you experience that as well?
Oh yeah. I mean, these during the pandemic, I've been teaching a weekly virtual session, and it's helped so much. And it took me a while to just like, I'd have people coming in that were like, really good at first word, last word. And I was like, oh man, I feel like I'm slipping up a little bit. But it's like riding a bike, right? Then you revisit it and it comes back maybe a little quicker. But yeah, exactly. It's just sometimes those, even just in scenes, right? Who are we in the scene? Where are we? What's going on? And remembering that in every scene. And I think that's, yeah, I super resonate with that. And I do every day, along with my like, yoga stretches and a meditation practice, I do some improv exercises, whether it's a crazy eight or I made one up that I call rhyming Madonna arms. It's like an arm workout and an improv exercise. So I've found ways in my life to like do a daily practice of it with myself. And that's also kind of controversial because I know some improvisers are like, you can't improvise by yourself. I'm like, really? Because I improvise for myself all the time. I mean, I have a dog and I talk with him a lot, but otherwise, I'm making stuff up all the time.
Oh yeah. There's plenty of solo exercises. There's also, I know people who do solo improv performance. I think it's a little crazy, but I mean, hey, it's for them.
Yeah, exactly. There's something for everyone.
Yeah. I'm not here to stop them. So it's, I've worked what a lot for a performing improviser. I feel like I've worked a lot in the corporate space. I don't feel like I had nothing on you, but most of the people that I've worked with or known who've worked in that corporate space are like me. They started from the performer side and then found out there was this whole other thing and kind of like, oh, let me try that sometimes, that and the other. But you have a much more, I think, dense perspective on this because that's your main thing and you've been doing it for so long. What advice, if any, would you give? Obviously, patience, we're going to include that from earlier because that's huge. But what, like, for people who come at it from my end, people who've been the comedian performer type who are like, hey, I want to get into this whole applied improv thing, what advice would you have for them?
Yeah, I mean, I'm big on like collaboration, and I think in the business world, right, we have teams. Like I've worked with a lot of different startups early in my career, and you can't build a multi-million, multi-billion dollar company with one person. And I think I've seen a lot in the applied improv world that there's a lot of like solo, performers like, I'm going to go do corporate stuff. And I think that's great. I think we're stronger together, and so having someone with a performance background partnering with someone with a more corporate background, and then figuring out like speaking each other's language, right? Because that's the number one thing. That's one of the number one pieces of feedback that I get from some of my clients is like, oh, you know what it's like to be in a board meeting and you've done sales and you've had to hire and fire people. And so, I know what MRR is and KPIs and like all these little jargon things from that world. So it's like I'm speaking their language and they feel heard and understood. And I think there's a trust that forms there. And so there's still a lot that I don't know. So if I'm not going to go do like improv for doctors unless I either partner with someone who is really entrenched in that world or have a really like a lot of like kind of research or long conversations with people who are doctors so I can really understand their environment. Like I can imagine some of it, right, and play to the top of my intelligence, as we like to say. In order for the work, I think, to be as effective as possible, I think it's really important to understand the audience. So that would be my advice is like, work together like with others that are really entrenched in that world, or like spend some time, interviewing people and getting to know what it is the needs are of that particular audience, so that doing those improv exercises even more effective. Now, I also think there's a time and place and need for just like, this has nothing to do with our work and we're just doing it for the fun and the play. Like, I don't think everything has to be tied into it because there are so many benefits of improvising just to improvise, right? And just doing the games and exercises. So I think there's a spot for that as well. So I guess there's, and then it's just a different value proposition. It's like, here's a little mental break from your work, and have some fun and laugh together. And it's a little different than like, how can you use this and embed it into your team and into your leadership skills and your culture of your company? So I think there's kind of two different routes there. And one is, it's more beneficial to like partner with others or really understand that audience.
Yeah, I remember there was a time where I was doing a lot of corporate stuff back in Chicago, and I was working with a guy, Matt Elwell. I don't know if you know him, but he does a lot in this applied improv space, and he was mentoring me and like it was really getting me on like how to the takeaways and the communications and whatnot. And I finally got my first solo. Like it was not him, it's just me, and I was like so prepared. And I showed up to this. It was like a marketing firm or something. There was foosball tables and everyone was drinking bottled beers. It's on a Friday afternoon, and I'm ready. And they're like, "Yeah, we just want to play some games." And I'm like, "Okay, I can do that. Okay, great. Just set
Yes,
this aside."
yeah, I love that. Yeah, there's your improvising the improv, right? Which
Yep.
is so meta. It's often a requirement of the job, right? Eat your own dog food, as they say.
Oh, I love it. Yeah. Um, Can you talk about this Improve X thing that I saw, where it's like you're working with teachers to help get them like what? I tell us
Yeah,
about that.
yeah. So earlier in the pandemic, I noticed that there were some different challenges. There's a lot of challenges in society, but there were a couple that were more relevant to improve. And one was there were a lot of improvisers out of work, right? They're not performing. Many of them that were like even doing film stuff, like they weren't. Everything was kind of had gone down, and improvisers had lost work, had lost income, and then the other part of that was companies that had moved from in-person to remote work were starting to experience, oh, our team like isn't really getting to know each other, and we've hired all these new people and they don't even know each other, they've never met, and we want people to connect, and we want to do something to replace the water cooler talk. And then in particular there within that there was like challenges with employee mental health and morale and things like that. So we created this program that we call Improve X, where we invited improvisers, whether they had facilitated something or not, to apply to lead a session that was around a specific topic. So like improve handling stress, improve creativity, improve, what was another one we ended up doing? Improve self-love, improve confidence. And so we got so much interest, and I wanted to hire everyone. And these were paid opportunities, right? So this was an opportunity for improvisers to make money, while it's also an opportunity for these companies to do something fun and do something to help their employees. We ended up doing a whole series in May for Mental Health Awareness Month that was improve mental health, and we did improve self-love, confidence, handling stress, and creativity. Wow. Where anyone, not necessarily just a company, anyone could participate in these sessions. And we partnered with a mental health nonprofit, and it was, I mean, we had over 100 people sign up, and people had so much fun, and it was so amazing to see what people were up for, and as well as these improvisers, some of which had never led a session, let alone virtually, that just like really lit up the audience and like really helped people develop these new tools to help with their mental health. So that was, I mean, I loved it because I love, like I said, I love collaborating with people, and so we're still running it, and I think we'll continue to run it at least through the end of the year, and we'll see what the world looks like at the end of the year, where just offering a platform for improvisers to try this out. Like I've learned a lot of improvisers, if they're making these connections of like, here's how improv helped me in my life off stage, they might have something to teach someone else, right? Because everyone's got something, right? I know people who improv has helped them get through cancer and cancer Wow. treatment. And so I haven't experienced that. So I don't feel like I'm not really equipped to teach that, but this woman can, and like really reach people that may also be going through that. I think grief is another one. We just did one last night on relationships. So we had an improv couple that met through improv, and they're both improvising, and improvisers, and they taught a session for couples and provided some different exercises and tools that couples could use to improve their relationship. And that was so fun. I've had requests for improved dating. And so, yeah, I think that's kind of the impetus of it, is to kind of bring these worlds together, improvisers that have found ways to improve their lives with improv off stage, and people that are trying to improve these things in their life, because improv is such a fun way to do that. It's a lighthearted way. Like I said, it's those M&Ms. And meditation isn't for everyone. Not everyone can afford therapy, or like that doesn't work for it's just another way to help people grow and help people heal whatever they're trying to work on. So hence the name Improve, right? We're trying to improve people's lives with these tools.
Wow, you're bringing value to both sides of the equation there. That's pretty badass, Mary. Well done. I'm impressed. Okay. Speaking of being impressed, I don't think I've ever had a long one-on-one conversation with anyone who's actually given a TED talk. I've a couple of people with TEDx talks, but not a full-on TED talk. What was that like?
Oh my gosh. Well, thank you for that. And also, thanks for knowing the difference. Like, somebody's, oh, you gave a TEDx talk. And I'm like, I've stopped correcting people. I'm like, yeah, I gave a TED talk, whatever. I was like, there's no X, next to it, but okay. So I felt truly humbled and grateful for that experience. So what was it like? It was a whirlwind. I had just moved to New York from the West Coast, and I was in this program with TED where I got to be in TED's office and work on my TED talk alongside other people working on their TED talk.
Wow.
So there was like built-in community and support, and kind of helped each other out and cried with each other sometimes. And I think some of the funniest, I'll share some TED stories. Like, one is, I remember going and being like, I'm going to improvise my TED talk. I mean, it's about improv, right? So I'm just going to go up there, stand on that red dot, and just like wing it. And the people at TED are like, absolutely not. You will have a script. You will deliver it by this date. We will do edits of the script, and then have a final script. So I did not improvise my TED talk. That was not allowed. And I'm in retrospect, I'm glad that they have a process, right? They help kind of craft that talk. I mean, at the end of the day, from being a performer, it's like, it's always an improvisation, whether you're memorizing something or not, because something will come up, it won't be exactly as planned. And I actually did a session for my TED compatriots to help them, once they had their scripts kind of memorized, to help them like let go of the script and just like kind of let it flow, versus like get really anxious if they miss the exact word, right? Because that's not great either. And the audience will have no idea that you said like the instead of whatever.
Yeah.
And then at some point during the process, I was kind of like, I don't know if I really want to give a TED talk, because I've always been the kind of person that would just like do things and didn't need to tell people about them. And I guess I see it as like flash versus substance. I've like always like gravitated more towards substance and just like doing the work, and like maybe it's from growing up in the Midwest. I don't know. It's just like doing the thing. I don't need to talk about it. And really it was TED that helped me reframe my beliefs about flash or putting stuff out there. And they said, do you believe that this talk and what you have to say will help people? And I said, yeah. And they're like, well, then you'd be selfish not to give a TED talk. And because I felt like, oh, I'm like, I don't like talking about myself or whatever, it's selfish. And they reframed that for me. They helped me reframe that of just, and this is true to improv, right? It's a gift. It's like that philosophy of everything is a gift. And, it's not about me. I'm just like the vessel of which this message is getting delivered. And if it can reach a few people, and it helps influence their lives and positively impact their lives, like that's why I'm doing it, and so TED was really great for that, because it really helped me confront a lot of my own insecurities and imposter syndrome around sharing about, improv as a way to improve people's lives and leadership, right? So yeah, and then I mean, it was cool to be in TED's office and perform on the TED stage. I've gone to TED Women. I'm kind of in bed. Once you're in TED, you're like in TED's community. And so I've done improv with the entire TED team at their company offsite. I did something at TED Women, and just I couldn't even imagine, it really it's something I'm so grateful for, and the people and the community that I met through TED. And it's part of why I'm here with you now. I'm not sure I would have had the confidence and articulation to be able to have this conversation with you before TED. I think it really helped open me up to a new way of looking at making an impact in the world.
Wow. Yeah. I mean, so much there, but I'll just say that like this podcast is an example of hundreds where I had the same kind of thing of like, I don't want to just put my voice out there because it's just about me. And then people are like, but if someone will benefit from it, You should. And I'm like, all right.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, I don't know if like, do you like remind yourself of that? Like, do you have to, or is at this point it's so embedded that,
No, it's a
it,
fundamental. I have to, it's one of my mantras, like that I have to say, like, I add value to the world, like different things like that, because it is such, I was born in Texas, but same kind of Midwest thing of like, oh, shucks, don't worry about it. That kind of like, I don't want to be selfish. I don't want to like pull people's, I don't want to impose, all those kind of like
yeah,
polite kind of things. And I think it's an overcorrection of
yeah,
like, you're not imposing by giving a TED talk worth value. You're not imposing by, recording a podcast that people are going to miss if they didn't get to hear it.
yeah, it's really, that's true. It's such a gift, it's such a gift. And, um, yeah, the more we do it, in theory, I guess the more it gets like, oh yeah, I know for me, I have a folder on my phone that is like it's called nice things people say to me. And it's like whenever someone sends me like, that workshop changed my life, or there's literally a woman who came to the first conference I ever did. It was my first doing improv at a conference, and it was like such a amazing experience. And there was a woman who stayed afterwards, and like she's like, can I give you a hug? And she was like crying. She's like, this like changed my life. And I still get emails from her just like, this has helped me with my relationship with my son and my husband and in my job. And I save all of them and I put them in this folder so that when I'm feeling like, oh, I don't know if I can do this, or I'm having a hard day, or I'm getting that imposter syndrome creep up, I can look at it and be like, this is why I'm doing it, right? It's like, get out of my like pity party or whatever, because it's not about me, it's about the people that it can touch and the lives that it can impact. And so I have that like tangible reminder for those low times.
Wow. I never occurred to me to save those. Well, you just may have changed the direction of my life. Like, why would I not screenshot those things when people send them to?
Yeah.
That's brilliant, brilliant.
Yeah.
Okay, I won't take up too much of your time, but last question: what is a character that you play when you're performing, like just for performing comedy? Like, what's a character that you've played before that still makes you laugh every time that you play them?
Oh my gosh. Gosh, this is so fun. This is like, I actually, in the pandemic, at some point, I remember just like sitting in my room and like found this old stuff from like many years ago and started putting on different things and playing different characters. Um, I did this character. I have so many of these recorded that I never shared because I was just kind of doing it for fun. And it's this character called, her name's Bernice. And Bernice would do a book club called Bernice's Book Club. And she has a really high voice, like, hi, I'm Bernice and I love books. And I got a pencil in my hair. Today we're going to talk about one of my favorite books. And then pull up like a book, like, here, I got a book right here. I'll do it. Today we're going to talk about one of my favorite books, Think Like a Monk by Jay Shetty. This is about how to think like a monk. And I'll just pull up a random page here. Okay. Ooh, the double-edged ego. That really reminds me of a double-edged sword. I like this book.
I love it. Oh my god.
So they're just like really bad book reviews.
I love
And
it.
by someone that didn't actually read the book,
But she's so excited.
She's so excited about it, and I started doing this character when I was living in San Francisco, and I was moving and I was packing up all my books. So I was like, I want to donate some of these books, but I need like something to remember them by. So I literally sat in my empty apartment and recorded all of these. And I like lost my voice. Like the next day, I just like couldn't talk. I kept doing that like, high pitched voice. And at that point I hadn't done any like vocal training to know how to take care of my voice when doing characters. And so, yeah, in fact, I didn't do Bernice for a really long time because I was like, oh man, I don't want to like lose my voice again.
Yeah.
So hopefully I'll have my voice tomorrow just from doing that little clip.
Yeah. Fingers crossed. Fingers crossed. Mary, I can talk to you all day, but let's tell people where they can find out more of you. What are you plugging?
Sure. So you can find Improve at www.chooseimprove.com or at chooseimprove on Instagram. I'm on Instagram at Mary Improves. So you don't have to know how to spell my last name or anything. So just
Nice.
at Mary Improves, at Choose Improve. And yeah, would love to improve with anyone who wants to improve their life using some fun games and improv, and for any improvisers that are interested in kind of bringing their knowledge of or like their insight of like how improv has improved their life. Would love to provide a platform to share that with more people. So find us, and thank you so much, Rich. This is a blast, and I could
Oh,
talk
thanks
to
so much
you
for being on
all
the
day
show.
about improv all day.
Absolutely. Oh, it's great. Well, thanks so much, Mary.
Thank you.